Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. And in today's video, we're going to be continuing Data Live Flash in Time. What if Shido was the Flash? Season 1, Part 3. As always, if you're new to the channel or if you're a regular and you like what we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Also, if you didn't get the message from my last video, instead of going into seasons 2 of Data Live and of the High School DxD series respectively, we are only going to be doing season 1 for the remaining schedule of the year. The reason being is that I'm going to have to go on a bit of an earlier vacation than expected because I have some dental work that needs to get done, and once I do, I'm not going to be in a position to be able to talk for a bit. So thankfully I was going to be taking the last few weeks of December off anyway, but now I might have to push that up a bit. So over the next 2 weeks, we are going to be trying to wrap things up in a more efficient manner, so I won't be able to start anything new after the end of what we have now. And I do hope you'll understand moving forward, and what we haven't covered now, we will cover in the next portion of Phase 2, and I will be dropping a video that will reorganize when everything is going to come out so that you can all be up to date. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into today's video. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Following his fight with Snart, Shido saw that he needed to improve a lot more with his speed abilities if he were really going to cut it out as a hero. More or less, Shido's life had taken more dramatic turns than one might expect. From learning of the existence of spirits in the form that they were, to learning that he had the power to seal them away, and through a fated incident, he had gained the power of super speed. Of course, his sister Kotori and the others of Ratasker were helping him out along the way, but still, this endeavor was not for the faint of heart. On top of having sealed 2 spirits' powers in Toka and Yoshino, he also had to learn with dealing and living with more people than expected. The 2 said spirits in question, as they had nowhere else to go. Of course, Toka was a bit of a mixed case. She always came off as indifferent, as if she wanted to kill Shido, but she seemed to second guess it. However, one thing that didn't stop her though were random bouts of attack. From out of nowhere, she would come in swinging her sword at Shido having to use his speed just to avoid being cut in half. Of course, Shido didn't like this at all, and it didn't help matters that this idea came from Dr. Wells. The good doctor and leader of the science division of Ratasker, what he dubbed as Star Labs, was in charge of all of the scientific things that went on the ship and for the team itself. And when it came to helping Shido, he suggested that the best thing Shido could do was get daily preparations for learning how to use his speed at a moment's notice. If Shido's true intention was to help seal away spirit power, then it meant he had to be fast. He had to be able to get to anywhere he needed to go at a moment's notice, never knowing when a spatial quake might happen. And he also viewed Toka as being someone who could truly test his reflexes. Since Shido had to learn, it wasn't just his overall speed that had been heightened, but the speed also managing to heighten his other senses, almost giving him a little bit of precognition, if you will. It was simply a matter of Shido being able to act at a moment's notice. Of course though, this often left Shido with a lot of cut and damaged clothes, and even some cuts on himself. Toka promised that she wouldn't do anything lethal, although she didn't plan on holding back, and she was always prone for a random attack whenever, whether Shido would be in the shower, just taking a simple walk, or if he was just going to pour himself a glass of juice. It would always be the slash of a sword out of nowhere, and Shido just narrowly dodged every attack that came his way. Of course, This wasn't really how Shido wanted to live. He thought that there had to be a better way to train, but it did show its results. When Shido went out for test runs, he was able to do certain things that he couldn't before. One of his hardest things was learning how to turn. Turning while running was something easier said than done. He had to be able to have the mental fortitude to know when he was going and where he was going. That his mind could be just as fast as his body was. Of course, this left with some trial and error. A few times he even found himself slamming into a wall. But this was baptism by fire, so to speak. If Shido were going to show that he had what it took, then he was going to have to learn to roll with the punches, as it were. On top of that, he also got another upgrade. That in the form of his hero suit being put into a combat ring. This was a suggestion by Dr. Wells, a way for him to transform and turn into his hero costume quickly whenever he needed it to. This would be a bigger benefit than carrying around a big backpack all the time. Slowly but surely, Shido was growing in his powers, and he was getting a bit more confident as each passing day went by. For the most part, though, there was also something else that was bothering him. It was about Yoshino. She was worried about Snart and what had happened to him. Of course, Snart had managed to be the cover for their getaway, and he had ended up getting captured by the AST. Of course, Shido understood why Snart was doing what he did. If the boy truly had been inducted into some horrible bodily experiments only to be cast aside, then it was understandable why he would want vengeance against those that wronged him. And even more so, he was someone who was helping taking care of Yoshino when no one else was. Shido figured he could get some information out of Origami, and he tried to do so at school. However, as Origami was surprised that Shido would ask her such a thing, she would have to confess that she didn't really know much. In fact, even when the AST had captured Snart, he didn't stay in their custody for too long, as another organization had come through. They had heavy clearance, way more than that of the AST, and almost as if overnight he had seemingly disappeared, and there was no trace of him. This left Shido extremely confused. Who exactly would have taken Snart out of the custody of the AST? If it was someone with that type of clearance and leeway, then he was potentially dealing with something far greater than he could have imagined. But for now, he'd have to put it away and try to find whatever more evidence he could down the road. In the meantime, the students would be welcoming a new classmate, a young girl, her name being Kurumi Tokasaki. The girl had long black hair, with two ends tied with a ribbon. Even more so, the hair covered over her left eye, but her right one shined like that of a crimson scarlet. She was very happy to be with everyone here, although what she said next was a bit alarming, claiming that she was a spirit. Of course, for Shido, for Toka, and for Origami, this caught them off guard. It wasn't something that any ordinary girl would actually say, and to say it with such conviction also. This left them wondering if she were telling the truth, or if she was just messing with them. For the most part, everyone seemed to play it off like it were just a joke, but as Kurumi surveyed the classroom, her eye became fixed on Shido. For a brief moment, it was as if time stood still, as if there were no one else around but just the two of them. As she walked towards his desk, she smiled kindly and asked if he could be her guide to help show her around and let her get to know the place. Not seeing any reason not to, Shido would agree. Before long, it would be confirmed by Kotori and the others that were tasked her that Kurumi was indeed a spirit. For Shido, he felt as though this were simple enough. A spirit that wasn't causing trouble and actually wanted to find him, that just made things easier in his opinion. As he and Kurumi would begin their tour of the school, everything seemed to be going well. There wasn't anything to be worried about, and for the most part, she seemed like a kind and pleasant girl to be around. As their tour was ending, though, Kurumi would look towards Shido with a smile. It was one that had conveyed many emotions all at once. A smile of satisfaction, one of desire. Almost as if she were devouring him with just her eye alone. After their meeting, the two would part ways, and Shido would make his way home. However, in the process, he would be stopped by a young girl, around the same age as Kotori. She introduced herself as Mana, and was even more of a bombshell. She introduced the fact that she was Shido's sister. Long-lost sister, to be more specific. From here, Shido would find himself learning a lot more than he would have thought he would, with now his long-lost sister coming from out of the woodworks and meeting the rest of, well, his family. A family that only consisted of his stepsister Kotori and his two new roommates in Toka and Yoshino. This left a bit of an awkward tension in the air, so to speak, mainly between Kotori and Mana, as the two girls were vying for a position of little sister. Shido asked if Mana knew anything about their parents or about their family, but Mana couldn't remember. She felt as though, whenever she thought of them, nothing could come up at all, almost as if her memory had been erased entirely. Although sadly, she wouldn't be able to stay for long, as she would get a call and would have to leave. In the meantime, Ratasker would make its own discoveries, not just of Kurumi, but of Mana as well. That Mana was working with the AST. In fact, she was their most skilled killer, when it came to fighting spirits, that is. In fact, they had even recovered footage of her killing Kurumi. Although, that was easier said than done, mainly because, despite what the footage showed, Kurumi arrived to class the next day as if nothing had happened at all, leaving everyone perplexed and bewildered at the idea. They knew that she had been killed, but yet she was still here. Shido had to get to the bottom of it, and since there was no point in beating around the bush, he just asked her out on a date, and she agreed. One way or another, Shido was going to find out the truth. As the day of the date had come, Shido found himself being surprisingly excited, not sure of what was going to happen, but at the same time, he kind of liked that feeling. Kurumi wasn't like any of the other spirits he had met up until now. There wasn't really a game plan that he could use for her. Anything he came up with, from an idea to a quick-witted response, she could match it back in tenfold. And for some reason, he liked that about her. The date would progress fairly well, and he didn't even have to worry about interference from the others, as Toka was busy at the bakery trying all types of bread, and Yoshino and Yoshinan were keeping her company. However, when the two had gotten split up, Shido found himself being approached by Origami. Origami speaking from her own concern, not only about Kurumi being a spirit, but there was also something else. You're the speedster, aren't you, Shido? Speedster? Yes, the one that wears red and yellow. You have been the one interfering with the AST and being involved with the spirits, haven't you? So you figured it out. Yeah, I am. What of it? Shido, you shouldn't get involved in something like this. And with that power of yours, there's so much that you could... I don't plan on killing them, Origami. But even still, I want to save them if there's a chance. And I have something I need to ask you. Snart, what do you know about him? Origami would give her explanation. Truth be told, there wasn't much that she did know. He had been an enemy to the AST, yes, but that was just for the few crimes he actually committed. But even still, she didn't know much more about him. In fact, he wasn't even in the AST's custody anymore. It wasn't even too long that after they had captured him on that same night, some mysterious people showed up and took him away. This only added more to Shido's suspicions, as things seemed to be going a lot more deeper than he could have thought. Although he wouldn't get a chance to think on it for too long, since his phone would go off immediately, and he would get a call that something was happening. Shido would bid Origami goodbye before racing off to the location. As he found himself at the nearby park, he could hear someone yelling and begging for his life. He went to investigate and he saw it. Kurumi in her spirit form, holding a gun towards a man on the ground, and there were splatters of blood all throughout the forest. Kurumi commented that she didn't like when people picked on the innocent and the weak, and that now that the shoe was on the other foot, it wasn't fair to beg for only your life. However, before she could take the shot, Shido would save the man, telling him to get out of here, as Kurumi turned back to Shido with a satisfied smile. I must say, my love, that took you a bit longer than I was hoping for, but you always know how to make it up to me. Kurumi, what's the meaning of this? Why were you killing them? I was only dishing out the appropriate punishment. Punishment? Yes. These hooligans, if you will, they were messing with these innocent animals that have done nothing wrong, harming them. They were even going to kill them. I see, but what? Is it only right when humans get to do wrong? It's typical that you would think that. Any atrocity that a human commits is perfectly fine, but if something that isn't human commits it, oh, then that's a no-no. I never said that. If that's what's happening, then what they did was wrong, and they should be punished. But this isn't the way, Kurumi. It's the only way I see fit, Shido. But enough about them. Let's talk about you. That speed of yours. My speed? I've been able to sense it for a while now. It's truly tantalizing. I want it, Shido. I want it all for myself. Will you give it to me? Give me your speed. Shido wasn't sure of how to respond to this. She wanted his speed? He wasn't even sure if he could give it to her. And even if he could, he knew he didn't want to. Why do you need it? Oh, don't worry yourself about such things. I have my reasons, the same as anyone else. Although, if you'll excuse me, Shido would immediately feel a strong force push him back, as from out of nowhere Mana would appear. Mana remarking that this wasn't the first time she had fought against Kurumi, and it wouldn't be the last. As the two girls found themselves locked in combat, Shido would try his best to intervene. However, Mana would put up a force field, blocking him from the fight itself, and Shido had no way of getting in. Dr. Wells would speak to him through his earpiece, along with Kotori, telling him to back away, as there was nothing that he could do at this moment. Shido asked if there was a way for him to break through. However, Wells would explain that at the moment, Shido didn't possess the power to break through that level of barrier, giving him no choice but to watch as Mana would seemingly kill Kurami once again. When the fighting was over, Shido would speak to Mana. He wanted to know what was going on, why she was doing what she was doing, why she was killing spirits. Mana, she couldn't answer, because in all honesty, she didn't know. This was all she had ever known, all she had ever trained for, and she couldn't really think of anything else. However, for Shido, he would learn that this wasn't the end of Kurami. In fact, it was far from it. The next day at school, she didn't appear, and at first, Shido was worried. What if Mana had finally done it? What if she had finally managed to kill her? However, his answers would come quicker than expected, as everyone around him in school immediately started passing out on the floor. Even Toka wasn't immune to the strange phenomena. And what was worse, it seemed as though a barrier had formed around the school entirely, trapping everyone. Over the loudspeaker, Shido would be told by a familiar voice to make his way to the roof. Shido donned his flash suit and arrived immediately, to be confronted by Kurami as she waited. Hey there, Shido. You sure got here in a flash, huh? Flash. You should use that as a name. I think it worked wonders for you. Kurami, what's the meaning of this? Oh, you don't want to play with me anymore? Kurami, this is going too far. If you keep this up, innocent people are going to die. Die? Yes. Innocent? I think that's a bit of a stretch. Wait. What is this? It's my time capsule. A barrier made by yours truly. Kurami would reveal her left eye, as it was shown to be a golden clock. My power, great as it might be, it feeds on time. Time that needs to be replenished, and time that these fine individuals can give me. Shido would rush over to Kurami to try to stop her, as he grabbed her by both arms and held her against the wall. Oh, you want to get aggressive. I like a man of action. Kurami, listen. You're going to stop this right... Shido would feel himself being shot in the back as he turned slowly and saw another Kurami, before immediately being shot on his left side and then on his right, as multiple Kuramis appeared from out of the ground and through the walls, even some appearing from thin air. What the? How are there so many of you? Oh, Shido. My power gives me a mastery over time. You could say that they're my past self. Myself that it's honestly the best help that one could get. Shido would slowly stand back on his feet once more, as the Kuramis readied their assault. They would shoot again, but Shido was able to dodge every bullet they could throw. You are fast. It seems as though catching you off guard might be the only way that I can hit you. Shido would try to go after the original Kurami. However, every time he did, he would only be stopped by yet another time doppelganger that would arrive trying to take their shot and getting him in compromising positions so that she could do so. Of course, this phenomena did not go unnoticed by Kotori or by Mana. Mana quickly arriving to try to assess the situation as she engaged in a fight with Kurami once again. However, this time, Kurami found herself with the upper hand, being able to dominate and believing that now was the time she'd finally be rid of her. However, before she could take the finishing shot, Shido would stop her instantly, and in a quick blitz would attack many of the other Kurumis that were there until the one that he deemed as the original remained. Although Kurumi didn't seem fazed in the slightest, even when Mana had managed to cut off her arm, she simply used time to reverse it, recovering from the damage that she had sustained. In the midst of their fight, both Origami and Toka would eventually arrive as well, having managed to overcome the effects of the barrier in order to help aid in Shido's fight against Kurumi. Of course, Kurumi still held the advantage, and she had made it very clear of what she had wanted in Shido. But there was something that was bothering her. Despite everything she had done, Shido was not fighting with the intent to kill. Although everyone else seemed to want her dead, Shido did not. Shido stuck true to his word. He wanted to save all spirits, including her. He couldn't take away what she had done, but she could have a better future. Hearing this, Kurumi would be a bit unsettled. She didn't like the idea of someone thinking that they knew her. The idea of him thinking that she was worth saving, or that he had the capacity to do so. She thought that was a little too arrogant for her liking. In fact, she found it to be quite annoying. So annoying that she figured she'd give him a reason to not want to save her. A reason that would leave him so broken and dissolute, the only thing he'd want to do is give in to her will. As a rip in time, a portal would start to form. It was the beginnings of a spatial quake, probably one of the more massive ones that this country had experienced. As everyone could feel it, Shido would start to panic nervously as he begged for Kurumi to stop. He asked the doctor if there was anything that he could do, and Dr. Wells, he was trying to come up with something, but he wasn't sure of what speed could do against a spatial quake. It had never even been seen or tested. However, almost as if to answer a desperate prayer, a burning flame would emerge in the sky, canceling the spatial quake. Kurumi had no idea how it happened, or what was the cause. That was until both she and Shido and everyone else saw a familiar silhouette. A silhouette that filled even Origami with anger and with dread. For it was the sight of yet another spirit. A spirit that was infamous with Origami for many reasons. For this was the spirit that took away her family 5 years ago. And the identity of that spirit was none other than Shido's sister Kotori, the flame spirit who had finally re-emerged. This concludes Date A Live Flash in Time. What if Shido was the Flash? Season 1, Part 3. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that is to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for next week's video as we continue Naruto Polaris Shippuden. What if Hanabi Hyuga was born first? Part 19. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.